Now, before we get into this video, I just want to let you know really quick, if you want to get a free quote on any work you want done to your boat, head over to our website, bashbrothersfishing.com. Quotes are free. Just submit the information in there and we'll get back to you pretty quick, but head over to our website. Everything you need to know is right there, bashbrothersfishing.com. All right, so today we're going to be customizing a boat switch panel. And really, this is not a boat switch panel, it's just a switch panel, marine grade. It could be used in a car, truck, whatever, RV. You do the same thing. So if you're stuck out there trying to figure out how to customize a tray or even how to create a setup that fits your boat, you need a central place for all your switches. You need a hub for your boat. We're going to get into all of that in this video and solve that problem for you right now. Here's the switch panel we have. This is an aluminum switch panel, powder coated in black. This is an 8x16. This is a really good way to go to simplify your life, is to get a pre-made panel. You could always make one yourself. It's not super hard to do, but chances are it's not going to be clean like this. I mean, this is professionally made. And speaking of professionally made, this is from Tiny Boat Nation Outdoors. You can get this exact one, 8x16, on tbnation.net. Okay, tbnation.net. And as a bonus, use our code BBF5, get 5% off your order on whatever you order. So not just this, head over there and have a blast. Use our code, 5% off. They have 2 different sizes on their website for this electrical panel right here. Check it out. How we're going to customize this is we're installing a switch panel. This is a 6 switch, and it also has 2 USB chargers and a voltmeter right there, which is pretty cool. We're going to be installing I like to just call these a master switch, and then we're going to be installing not 1 but 2 of these ports, and this port allows you to charge your batteries. Super simple. Look at that, guys. If you haven't seen this before, this is the single plug NOCO, and I'll leave all this stuff linked in the video description. Don't start writing stuff down. I'll leave it all in the description for your convenience. Very easy to find. We're not going to be installing just 1, but we're going to be installing 2 of these. We're going to install a single where you just have 1 battery charger plugged into this. And we're going to be installing another one here that has a double connection on it. Doing that for a specific reason for this boat build I'm doing right behind me. Look at all this stuff. But I won't get into all that because this video is not about that. We're going to be installing 2 of these. I actually have the second one ordered already, but someone did a little shim with Amazon and returned it previously and stuck the single one in the double one. So the double box came with a single, and I now need to wait and get a new one shipped out to me, but it will go right here in this slot. All right, and that's it. Super simple, no live well, no other accessories. We'll be installing this tray. This is going to be a simple video on how to go about doing something like this, and just exploring options will help you explore options for your boat. So first thing you want to do is just lay out everything that you're going to install in your tray. Figure out your spacing, make sure it makes sense for your boat setup. And then when trying to figure out, well, what do I install first? What I like to do is start with the central piece, either the piece that's going to take up the most space or maybe just the most important component that's going to go in here. And in this situation, it's going to be this switch panel. This is going to be installed right dead center in here. So I'll start with this switch panel, and the first thing I want to do is just get it cut out. I need to mark my spot and cut it out just to the exact size I need for this. To do that, simply remove the switches out of here, and they've got these tabs right on the back. Just squeeze them in on both sides. Kind of hard to do this with one hand, but you got it here and here. Squeeze, and then just push the switch out. Start with one side and squeeze the tab in. Starting to pop out already. You can see, oops, just pop back in. See that gap right there is coming right out. Do the same for the other side. All right, so we got that. Just want to demonstrate it for you and show you how to get these out. So I'm going to pop this back in here. Over here, this is the one I keep talking about. I have one of these just laying around. Lucky me. Actually not so lucky, because it's from some switches I broke on one maybe a few years back. That's a whole nother story, but anyway, I've got this. I will use this as my template. I'm gonna flip the tray over and work my measurements. I flipped the template over as well. I'm just calling this a template. You guys know what it is. I want it to be centered, so let's just run a quick tape measure here to see where this falls. Center is right here. So I'm just drawing my center line and then on the center line. This is 16 inches. Our 8-inch mark is roughly right here. Okay, you can visually just put this here, but if you wanted to be like stupid anal about it, this is 7 inches wide, 3.5 lines up to be right in the center here. And this is like just to make sure it's perfect. You don't have to go through all this. You could eyeball it and do what you want, but this is for a customer build. We're gonna do it the perfect way. So this is roughly 2 3/4, maybe even a little less. So that'll be 1 3/8, which will be my halfway point. And I'm just gonna mark that here. So from here, I'm using the center line on the tray and lining it up with the lines that I have here and right there. So we'll adjust it. I'll make sure it's perfect. All right, this is exactly where I need it. So from here, we are going to just mark our openings. And then I'll connect the dots and then cut this out. I'm gonna go a little bit outside the line. I need everything to slide in place. And then I'm gonna bring this out here. And we see where we need to cut out. It's really important to work on the backside of the tray. You don't want to end up scratching up the face of this, because trust me, as you're drilling and sawing through this, you're going to scratch the surface. It's just inevitable. So we're going to work from behind and be able to get everything done accurately and also keep it clean in the end. All right, so I did a hole punch using a center hole punch just to create enough of a dent in there so that my drill bit doesn't slip. I'm gonna start with a smaller drill bit and work my way up. We're starting with a 1/8 bit, and then we'll move up to the actual size bit. Then I can get my jigsaw blade in there and make the appropriate cutout. So that worked out great. We've got the first component in there, which is a switch panel. For the port plug, at the bottom of the box, it actually tells you the exact diameter hole you need to cut out. 2-inch. All right, takes the guesswork out of it. So get yourself a 2-inch hole saw and make your cutouts. Super simple. And to ensure that I don't scratch up the face of this, just gonna put this padding down, rest it on top of there. Always a great rule of thumb, which makes life easy. When you're making your cutouts, just go ahead and use the actual hole saw itself to do your measurements with. Be sure to make sure you account for the flange of this plug. When you flip it over, you see you have, and I'm gonna actually measure this. If I stick my tape measure up to it, I am looking at actually 1/2 inch, not 3/4 of an inch. So that's exactly 1/2 inch. That way, when we line this up where we want it, it has to be at least 1/2 inch from the edge. And not only that, this is where you do need to account for the thickness of the material, the thickness of this panel. Don't go to the edge here because you've got, I think this is 1/8. Yeah, this is probably 1/8 of an inch or 0.90, but I'm just gonna go with 1/8 just to play it safe. Come in an extra 1/8, and then you can, if you need to do it exact, right? Of course, you can just bring it over here and you're covered. So what I'm gonna do is just bring this over 3/4 of an inch. That gives me some fudge room. All right, I lied, guys. I'm gonna go with 1 inch. That's 1 inch from there, and then 1 inch here, right? You don't really have to trace it out. The main thing is to find, when you're using the hole punch as your guide, you want to find center of the hole punch. I have that marked right here, and center of the hole saw, not the hole punch. So I'm going to eyeball it. That looks like, ooh, that looks like dead center right there. So then I'm going to come similarly off of the bottom, which will be the second install. Most important mark is this one right here, center of the hole saw. But I like to just mark it out anyway. Don't need to, but why not? All right, we're gonna hole punch this. There you have it, boys. Got both of them. We're gonna go ahead and drill this out and be done with these two right here. There you have it. That's what that will look like right there. You've got your top one, and then when the second one comes in, gets delivered, I will install it there. I've got the placeholder in place for that. Next up, we're gonna go and install the master switch. To me, this is the trickiest one of all. Reason being, we're not going to be installing it in the front. That would be the easiest way to go. But honestly, guys, it's pretty ugly. So to keep this thing looking sexy, we're going to install it from behind and then drill it, bolt it in from behind. All right. So it's one thing we'll need to do is drill out the hole that fits the perimeter of this right here. There's a little flange right here. We want the electrical panel tray to rest on this flange right here. So we have to be very precise on our hole, which I don't even know the measurement of this. I'll have to measure it manually and make sure that we have it cut out to specs. And then once we get it through, we need to drill out 4 holes, and that's where it can get tricky because they have to be lined up well for this to be flush and work properly. All right, so stick with me. We're almost done customizing this panel. One tip I do want to give you is when you clear out your hole, go ahead and use a deburring tool to just clear out the rough edges from the hole saw. It protects the component that you're putting in here, in this case, these ports, and also protects you from cutting yourself and so on. This is the tool right here. Just pick this up off of Amazon. It actually comes with extra bits as well. So if you wear out one, you've got plenty of others to go with. Rub it around, rub it around, rub it around, scrape away all that rough aluminum, and you're golden. Right now it's smooth, it won't cut your finger. You can rub it on there and won't cut through anything that you're installing in your panel. Little handy tool goes a long way. And I'm gonna mention this up front before I forget. One thing to keep in mind, very important, is you're gonna measure out, and I just measured this actually, it's the same 2-inch cutout. So same 2 inches I did for these, I'm gonna use for this as well. So I don't have to change bits, awesome. Keep in mind, very important, whatever distance you measure away from this wall, you gotta make sure that you've measured the distance. You know how much distance you need from the round edge for where your cutout will be to where your actual bolt will go through. I will be measuring that to make sure when I install this from behind that I clear this wall. Okay, and I clear that wall up there. Because in the end, you're gonna have 4 bolts sticking through the face of this. Just keep that in mind. Don't go installing it from behind thinking you have all kind of space, and then you go to bolt it in and then you don't have the appropriate space you need to bolt it in. So just account for that distance from here to each bolt all the way around and make sure you have that covered in your measurement. We just drilled out another 2-inch hole, as I just mentioned. This is in here, ready to be bolted in. We're gonna go in from behind and just drill straight through, holding this in place. There cannot be any shifting, else the bolts will not be aligned, and you don't want that. It's one and done with this. So take your time and get it done right, but we're literally gonna drill through, probably will secure one, then the other, and then do the last 2 together, drilling straight down. Completely done. Everything is now in place. I got both of my plugs in the panel, which is awesome. Just follow the same steps. I went with 2 drill bits because I didn't want any kind of slippage on my bit or scrapes on this beautiful panel. You don't want to mess up your powder coat. So I did the center punch just as an extra step. You don't have to do that, but I center punched it, started out with a 1/8 drill bit, and then I believe something around a 3/16. But the key thing is whatever drill bit size you end with, just make sure it's just enough for this screw. Don't make it much bigger than that, what you need for that bolt to go through. So anyway, this is just one way you can customize a panel. This is what's going to work for the boat that I'm doing this for. You got your master switch and your rocker panel here and your plugins for your chargers. I mean, you can go ahead and add a cigarette lighter charger here. You can add a live well switch, live well timer, and just, you know, make it work for you for what you need it for. But I love how this came out. I used the original bolts for the master switch here. And guys, things come with screws. and you don't necessarily have to do it that way. And what I'm talking about are these plugins come with really nice looking screws that you can use to install them. But I wanted best case scenario, and I went with bolts and nuts for these two here. Actually, for everything. I did it for the switch panel as well. That way, for my customer, you don't have to worry about this needing to be retightened or anything like that. So hopefully you guys got some helpful tips out of this video. And one thing to note, I did customize this switch panel. A lot of time it comes standard and it's not wired properly. And that's something you guys should really pay attention to, is when you get one of these, how is it wired out the box? If you want to know exactly what I did to customize it for the optimal performance and safety, check out this video right here on how to customize the switch panel yourself to make sure that everything is fused properly, well protected, and protecting, most importantly, the devices you connect to it. We'll see you on the next video.